Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer O'Hara, and I'll be presenting the space weather forecast today on behalf of the SIDC forecaster team from the Royal Observatory of Belgium. So the solar activity currently really is a tale of two halves, the eastern versus the western half. So you can see actually on the western hemisphere, we have very little or very few solar active regions, whereas on the eastern hemisphere, we have very many. So you see that actually in the northeast, there are a number of active regions that have been newly numbered and split off from this large region that's just rotated over the limb. So the most active is region 3492, and also then in the south, region 3489, and these are producing most of the flaring activity now. What it looks like from the SDO with the 174, you see here the new regions rotating over the limb, but you can also see here from the solar orbiter low latency data taken with EUI, also from just this morning. EUI on board solar orbiter is 12 degrees ahead of Earth, so you can see slightly further over the limb for these new regions that we're expecting. And we're expecting, therefore, the activity to increase as these regions continue to rotate onto the disk. What has that meant for the flaring activity? So far, the background GOES exoflux has slightly increased over the last few days as we've had these new active regions. The largest flare yesterday was from region 3492 and was an M1.2 flare, so we have moderate flares. And then since then, we've had some high-level C-class flares, also from 3492 and 3489. We're expecting almost 100% probability of further C-class flares now that the background level is so high, and also more than 50% chance of M-class flares. For the F10.7 centimeter radioflux, it's been increasing over the past few days with these new regions, and we're expecting that trend to continue. In terms of filaments and CMEs, so we have a number of filaments on disk. Here also you see the EUI FSI low latency images. So you can see, particularly in the eastern hemisphere, we have a number of filaments, but also on the west. And there have been a number of eruptions from these filaments, but they are mostly confined to the limb, and so none have been Earth-directed. Here you see the CME with the latest LASCO C2 data showing a number of these eruptions, particularly coming from these regions on the east limb. And you can see the Cactus CME tool detection output showing a lot of these detections all on the east limb. And as I say, none are considered Earth-directed. And then we have the GOES proton flux, so far at background levels. And also we have no large regions in the west, so we're expecting that to stay at background levels for the next days. In terms of the coronal holes, here on the left-hand side, you see a small positive polarity coronal hole that transited the central meridian on the 18th, and that is near the equator, and we're expecting that to impact Earth over the next days. On the right-hand side, you see what it looked like in the previous rotation. So this is a recurrent coronal hole where we also saw some impact from the last Carrington rotation. For the solar wind, so this shows the discovered data from the past 3 days, and you do see we have some slightly enhanced magnetic field over the last days, possibly from some transient features or weak CME. And we're also expecting this solar wind to become more enhanced, as I said, due to the solar wind or high-speed stream from that coronal hole. Until now, we've had quiet conditions with a few locally unsettled geomagnetic intervals. Now, at the very end of the period, you see we've got BZ down to -12, so we might be seeing slightly increased geomagnetic activity. And then from the previous rotation, so in the box below, you see what we saw for the solar wind in the last Carrington rotation, and we saw this increase here at the solar wind speed associated with that small positive polarity coronal hole. And even though that wasn't a very large increase, that did produce active to minor storm conditions. And so we're expecting similar conditions again. Finally, the electron flux that has been at background levels over the past days, and we're expecting it to stay at background levels for the next few days, but then if we get this high-speed stream to then gradually increase. Thank you. That was a summary. I think we're hoping it will increase in activity over the next days. And a quick advertisement, if you're interested in any of the tools or any of the data I've shown and you would like to know more, then come and find us. We'll be at the tutorials and at the fair on Wednesday.
Thank you, Jennifer.